All right, everybody, thank you very much. We're about to get started with our event, but just hang tight for a little bit while we get things started. Thank you. Turn this on and share tab audio. All right. All right. Can you hear me well? I think you guys can hear me well. So thank you very much for having me speak today. I look forward to sharing a lot of different things with you today in regards to the work that we do here at the Afro-American Academy, Afro-American Culture Initiative. I'm a civil engineer by training. So what my work is to kind of study the infrastructure of Boston and kind of like look at the history and the cultural ramifications. So in the summer, we had our students go around and look at some different areas of Boston. And we went downtown, we saw the Jewish Memorial, and we started learning more about the Jewish artifacts in our community. And we started this project called Umoja Unity, Ahud, I believe. I hope I'm saying that right. And it's African American, Jewish American Pathways to Understanding. This project basically, like I said, we're a nonprofit here in Boston. I'm going to really run through this just to introduce us. We do restorative project management, like you said, and we design systems that can build community, repair harm, and promote inclusivity. Our Afro-American Academy is a summer school, after-school program, employment program as well, for kids 15 to 23-year-olds from underserved communities here in Boston. Then finally, we are even currently, I'm streaming my this part of the event to YouTube, where our students have a platform to share the information that they're learning. So today you have an opportunity to kind of learn about how we do things. Also, I wanted us to always send a shout out to my guy Sharif Muhammad, who has he's a wonderful Boston artist, and he supports our program with these wonderful playing cards with representation on them. This is just to give you a little demo of a little bit what we do. We have a Slido, which is an online interactive. We're not going to do much of that today, but it's just to kind of let you know how when we have these discussions, this is how we document a lot of the discussions that we have, and use that data to create curriculum. So I'm really looking forward to some feedback today from you guys, about the work that we do. And you'll have an opportunity to use your phones and do that today if you feel so inclined to do so. So these are my students. I have Northeastern students, I have Boston Public School students. And like I said, they do the research and stuff and the hard work to design interactive slideshows like what you're seeing here today. So this is just a little bit of like what I wanted, but I don't want to take too much of our time today. But these are examples of how you could answer on your phone and let us know how you're feeling today. So we could actually collect data and use that data. Like I said, we do not use racial identifications. We always use cultural identifications in our community because we always want to point out the cultural similarities. And that is why we have this slide. But just like I said, just to kind of give you a little overview of what we're doing. So we're celebrating Black History Month, and we're doing the Boston Redline 85 campaign. The Boston Redline 85 campaigns because the Boston Redline map was issued February 1st, 1938. So we've decided that we should mark February 1st every year going forward to see and assess how we're doing. This is our community project month, where we have community activities and events throughout the month, and this is one of them. So we're very happy to include the Jewish community in this multicultural effort that we're doing here. I'm very excited to hear how you guys are actually taking all this time, going through all this effort to learn what you need to do to take action, right? And one of the things about taking action is we have to know what kind of happened in the past and put it probably in proper context. So one of the things that I've learned from the whole series is that, to try and understand the context that the community in Franklin Park and Mattapan that we've been reading about, that what was the context that going on around Boston, right? That may have been influential to the decision to leave the area, right? And of course, yes, we know the blockbusting and other thing, but let us look at what was happening to other communities. Like I've mentioned, this is Black History Month, so I'm going to give you a little Black history, local Black history. This is the Dudley Street Baptist Church. It was across the street from Dudley. I don't know if many people remember, but however, a lot of people in this area do not remember. And this is these images were taken from Segregation by Design. You can go on Instagram. He's an architect there. He has wonderful images about all the cities that this happened to. So when the urban renewal came, these, there were 60% of the African American community was taken out, and this was in the early 60s, before really the Jewish community had left. So this is what people were listening to and hearing, and they were understanding that was going on. If you look on the top picture, you can see that this is goes to Forest Hills. This is what I think they call it, the South Loop. And yeah, this African American community, this cultural hub, was taken out. Now, I'm interested in this church not for the reasons of simply, like the religious part, the spaces. I'm interested in the spaces. During segregation, we could not go to many parts of the city. In fact, we could only go to the red line areas that we were living in, and parts of the Jewish community, because the Jewish community was, giving jobs and opportunity, the Franklin Park in particular. So this space was highly purposed, all right? And this is where a lot of the cultural development happens. So cultural development for music, cooking. So these kind of churches produce people like Aretha Franklin, but 2 generations down, we're having issues with our cultural competency and having that music spaces, because we didn't have these music spaces when these places were destroyed in the urban renewal. These are some other pictures of the area. But the cultural loss is where I want to really home in on, because the community, basically 100 years separated from slavery, had reached a cultural strength, a cultural height, and it was because of these churches, which were really kind of like community centers, education centers. They could not go to Berkeley, they could not go to the finer institutions. So, and being confined in this tight space, they used the space for everything they needed, and a lot of it was to develop culture. And these cultures, after the kids grow up in these communities, they go out and they they open up businesses, jazz clubs and restaurants and all the rest, and they formed an African American cultural hub, similar to Chinatown, or I guess Little Italy, or any Jewish ethnic community. They had their own thriving economic system. But 2 generations down, because of these spaces were physically taken away during the urban renewal, they were not able to have this generation does not have that. So these are examples of some of the questions we get our students to go through. This is where I would like, we would normally get information from, but at this point, we just want to show you how we have improvised and got some very nice we got some very nice information, and this is how we make our curriculum. All right. So let me add the second bit. All right. All right. So how it works is that if you guys could oblige me, I'm going to give my presentation. And when I give my presentation, if you guys could go to the Slido, and anybody that's willing to, and if you hit this, if you go to either slido.com and put in 258530, right? Or you put in this QR code, you should have on your phone a pop-up. And what it will do, it will say, if you want to add a comment, so one of the things we're definitely going to talk about, all right, and so I'm putting one in, and how it works is, like I said, so while I'm talking, if you see anything that you feel is interesting, right? If you see anything that that you feel that you want to emphasize, you can either put in the first letter and the whole phrase will come out. So I'm hoping as we go along with this presentation that you will be able to add, what I have to say to that mix. All right. So we'll be stepping back on that, but I want to continue with my actual presentation about the Jewish areas in Boston. Hold on. All right. All right. So you guys can see me pretty good. All right. Excellent. All right. So, like I said, looking at what was happening in other parts of the community is extremely important, because it gives a cultural context to what was going on and what were the fears and what were the things. So this project, the Umoja Unity project, is designed to, like I said, develop curriculum around pathways to understanding for communities of color and for African American and Jewish American understanding. There are some goals that we have on this project, and some of them, well, we organized an event, and that we're here today to have this discussion. We want to develop some tours of some artifacts, some sites, some cultural Jewish artifacts that we have in the area, as a way of maybe generating some internally generated revenue for these communities. And this is some of the ways we think, we have, and we're willing to, of course, work with a team, of people that are willing to develop out opportunities to share the artifacts that we have. But let us look now at the national picture. Okay, so the national picture of what redlining looks like this. All right. Now, when you think that our ancestors were thinking about and thinking about all these that was going on in America. Each place had places removed, mostly primarily African American, but of course, all other ethnicities. So this was an ethnic, this was not just limited to African Americans. It was limited, there was Jewish, there was Polish, there was Syrian, there was Italian. So this was an ethnic, this was an attack on ethnicity as well, not just race. All right, the next slide. All right, so these are what happened. These are the three communities that were affected in Boston in particular. There were other communities, but the major ones was the West End. The Italians, they had the whole place leveled. We have some pictures there. The African American place area, which, like I said, was like a Black Chinatown, an African American Chinatown, right? A lot of people from the South had come over in the 60s and 70s from, escaping the fascism that they were experiencing in the former Confederate States. That, I guess, in the ideology, they were still practicing what they wanted, even though, they lost the Civil War. I don't think that mattered to them. And then the Jewish community in the in Mattapan area, right? Now, one of the particular things about this map, and when you find out, is that the area of Milton, which is the blue area, right, which is the blue area right here, and Mattapan, which is right here, were economically homogeneous, meaning they were making the same money as the people in the blue areas. When you look from a bird's eye view, you can see that Mattapan has a congruence of a lot of different streets. As we all know, the old way of building, that means that those areas were filled with business. So there was no reason for this area to be declining, is my point. And when you consider that simultaneously, there were efforts in all other parts of the city. In fact, all demolition in all parts of the city was handled by the federal government. The city of Boston only paid $75,000 for the demolition in all the areas, South End, West End. And this was a national effort. And I don't think that we should lose fact of that it wasn't in a vacuum what happened in Mattapan or around the Franklin Park area. This was a concerted effort. Everybody knew the writing was on the wall. And when you now see some of these pictures, right, we have to start, before we go into that, I want to talk about the relationship between culture, land, and law. And usually when you think of a border, there's always something there that shows you that you're a border. Maybe a welcome to Massachusetts. Or maybe when you get there, they'll ask you for your passport, because you're crossing into a new place where new laws are being observed, and there's jurisdiction of law. So when you have people that live on a land for a long time and they have connected to that land, and then now you draw lines to separate them in their code, then you now create two cultures where there was once one. And then that usually brings about a lot of issues. Or you alter the culture, or you push another culture out. This is what happened when these red line maps were drawn. They separated situations that were not really supposed to be separate, and as a result, there were changes in the culture of the area. In the Mattapan and Franklin Park, there was no more Jewish culture. Now it's not even African American culture; it's more of the African immigrant culture that came in after that. So Haitian, Cape Verdean. These are the people. So it's not indigenous African Americans are still in the Roxbury area, right? So when we put these laws, it interferes and it can cause problems. All right. So this is a picture of the West End. All right. So the West End was a multicultural community. I think there were like 55 synagogues inside the and temples inside the West End. It was they call it it was filled with little micro ethnic hubs, little bit of ethnic hubs all over from different communities, African American, of course, majority Italian, but different people from all over the world. And so you can see in these pictures the before and after, and you can only imagine what this is like Hiroshima, the kind of fear this would have put into the hearts of everyone. All right. We've already shown you the pictures of Dudley Square when they removed the orange line from Dudley Square. That was a signal that all the economy moving downstream from Warren Street down through to Blue Hill Ave, all that economy would be affected by Dudley was the link. All right. So this is what people were facing. They were looking at, they saw what happened in the West End. They stopped picking up the trash. They stopped telling people to maintain their buildings. And after a while, they took pictures and said these were slums. And even though the city had to admit that the place wasn't slum, because if you remember, the North End was also redlined. And they made a deal to destroy the West End because they felt it was more attractive. It faced the river, and they left the North End, which still stands today, which proves that it was not a slum. And so yeah, this West End story must have been very frightening to go by and just see for a patch of land where a thriving multicultural community once stood. All right. Now, so now that we've seen that 60% of the African American community was destroyed, the orange line was removed from Dudley, all right, killing the economy moving downstream from Warren to Blue Hill Ave. And then, of course, pressure with the blockbusting and all the things we've heard from the thing. This was a considered effort, and the same effort it took to destroy 60% of the African American community, wipe out the West End, and do all the other things that happened is the same effort that went towards the Jewish community, but it just did it differently. All right. Of course, I think the economics was a big difference. When you check the data, these places were poor. The red line areas and the yellow line areas, the main difference was poverty. They made considerably less. But that being said, the Jewish community had been in this area since the 1890s, right, or thereabouts, and escaping fascism from Europe, coming here, having changed names, coming here, even changing the names again, shows that there was significant racial pressure. In fact, what these are some other sites that, of course, these are the sites that we need information from, because we would like to know what these sites were like, and these are what we would like to generate a tour around, because they're still Jewish artifacts, and they still represent a rich and strong history. And now, remember the relationship between culture, land, and law? In some contexts, these shared spaces now that share, because of lines that are drawn, these shared spaces sometimes come into contention, right? Because now there's legitimate claim to these properties from both cultures, right? And this is what the issues that lay around when you come to redlining and creating borders. Because now it's, oh, well, this is a Jewish artifact. And at the same time, they can say, oh, no, no, now we're African Americans and we're been here, right? And now this is where conflict can arise, but where conflict has arisen in the past, we see opportunities and pathways for understanding. We see that now if there are some tours that can generate funding for programming and these congregations that are in these locations, preserving the physical infrastructure of these great buildings, right? These are things that we feel are important to this, to this pathways to understanding. So we need to know about the stories. What happened? Who's there? What were they used for? What are some of the fun stories of? What are some of the fun stories of unity? You know, I heard a story, and I'll end on this. The story was about basically. The story was about this young lady. Well, she was old lady now, but she was a young lady at the time, and only her and her mother. She's an African American lady. Now she was probably in her 60s or 70s, and she said her first job was with a Jewish butcher in Dorchester. Thank you for populating the list. Thank you. Let me share that as well so that people can see what people are writing while I'm talking. Right. So one of the things that that she said was she mentioned how, like, first of all, it destabilized the segregation because she was the only one that had a job and her mom had a job. It destabilized how, like, the family structure, because she would be able to bring home meat that her Jewish boss would give to her out of the kindness of his and her heart. And when she said it, she still had a trembling in her voice because of the kindness that was shown to her and her family. Because when you think of food insecurity, think of it about 100 times more during segregation, where meat is a thing. And she said it in a little southern accent. She said, meat weren't easy to come by back then, and jobs weren't easy to come back then. Her dad was doing side jobs from time to time, trying to maintain his his manliness within the family, when he's not even he's the third person bringing home money, right? So that's because of that kindness. We feel that those are the stories that our young people we feel like these are the stories that our young people need to hear about, because they've been told, a narrative that is not true. They feel the Jewish community left because they didn't want to be around people of color. And I said, what I always retort and I say, no, that's not true, because if that was true, then why were they hiring when other people were not hiring? Why were they showing acts of kindness? But these stories are lost. So these are the stories that I feel provide pathways, along with those physical spaces. Like I told you, that's so important, the physical spaces and what they're used for. Are they used to cook? Are they used to sing and teach people their culture, meaning like music? A lot of the Aretha Franklin, Stevie Wonder, all that is because they didn't have music schools. It was these church spaces. So these religious spaces formed the community centers that allowed them to teach how to play instruments to their youth. And now these youth cannot play instruments. So in fact, on Saturday, we're doing an event at Wally's Jazz Cafe, the last jazz cafe of that economic hub of the Afro-American community. And we're going to just be there to highlight, what I'm talking about, playing instruments, so that young people can understand that it's part of their heritage and part of their cultural rights to be able to have the facilities to play what they're good at. All right, and that's, I think, what the cultural diversity is very important. It says that, white people is not one kind of group, and it says black people are not one kind of group. There were white people that were segregationists, and there were white people that were not, and they were fighting for the right things. We want to raise up our allies. So thank you very much for giving me this time. I hope I haven't gone over. I probably have. Oh, I did. All right, and then let me stop sharing.